Where's my goddamn lasagna, John? It's time for part 2.
This is just like to satisfy my own curiosity, and we talked about it a little bit on our episode, but being a fan of just creepy old animation, especially the animation, the black and white cartoon, when they're in I think it's Jim's apartment, or it's perhaps, I'm trying to remember, is it a neighbor's apartment?
It's Jim's,
yeah, it's Jim's apartment part. Yeah. And he comes back, and right before or as the very kind of alarming, announcement is kind of coming over the, the PA system in the neighborhood there, that cartoon that's on screen.
Yeah.
Is that something that's original, or where does that come from?
I made it. I'm an animator.
Yeah. Now that you say that, at the beginning, I was like, I bet that was his cartoon. But I remember at the time us talking about it and going like, where is that from? That it was just a cool little bit of animation. But I was curious as to whether or not that was yours.
So
or not.
I rewatched the sentence just like before this episode and whatnot, and I noticed something at the end of that cartoon specifically. Is that wolf like actually having sex with the things that were okay? All right, I didn't notice it the first time around. And I was like, that's what's going on. I think that's what's happening. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, no,
appreciate it.
But originally, I wasn't even going to use that cartoon. I was like, that's a cartoon I made in like 2013 or something. But then, and I was going to try to just find I wanted to use like one of those like old like public domain Warner Brothers cartoons of like where there's a bunch of like there's like a guy in like a pot and there's a bunch of savages like
oh yeah
stuff. But then I was like, people are probably gonna like regard that as being like, because it's a banned cartoon because it's a racist cartoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think that using this in this context is bad, but it's probably better that we just don't risk it. And it's also probably nice too to like have something that like is that looks like it's an old cartoon sort of, but like it's not, because then people are going to be like, what the hell is that? And they're going to be like,
well, we had the conversation about it, but if it was that, or if it was, the dancing skeletons or something that we've seen before, like it probably would have just in one ear out the other. But it was like this weird, like uncanny valley of like, is that a real old cartoon?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't use the dancing skeletons,
yeah. But I'm talking about, something that was like somewhat recognizable, or, and this led me into something else I just thought about, because Meg, we were teasing you about your theory about the swollen eyes, the infected, folks who are infected in the virus in the movie, they have this almost looks like some sort of like anaphylactic reaction or something where they have this swelling around the eyes. Yeah. What was your I think you suggested.
I think you said it was like semen or something. Like that's what
you tried to suggest that their faces
they somehow just get real. Yeah.
But we were curious about what like in your mind, kind of where did that element come from, or how does that translate? Did that have something to do with the tears? Yeah. I know. I think I heard you talk about in an interview that like the original plan, or perhaps even what was in the script, was that people would like start bawling, like violently crying before, when they were infected or whatever. But
no, it's more just like it was supposed to be kind of the way it was, where you're infected and you're doing your infected stuff, but there's just tears coming from your eyes, right? Like you're just crying. And the idea was that like the idea is that like, I mean, if you're crying for, I don't know, an hour, like your eyes get pretty puffy. Like if you're crying if you're crying for like 3 hours, like heavily nonstop, those glands are going to get like, overused or whatever. And you're just,
super inflamed or whatever.
That was just sort of like for some reason, like I thought that was kind of disturbing. Like if you imagine, like if you're in some kind of weird, like war experiment camp or something, and they gave you some sort of medicine that like made you not be able to stop crying. And then after a while, like just your tear ducts just started to like get, just overworked, and your eyes just started getting all like puffy and weird, and like it was like almost like the worst sty you've ever had in your life, kind of thing. But it's not visible. It's like underneath the skin. That that was just kind of, you try to come up with sort of like a fictional virus and fictional symptoms, and you try to think about them like realistically, and then hopefully it comes across as being, maybe when people watch it, they're kind of like, they're not thinking about it directly, but it kind of indirectly kind of affects them in kind of an interesting way. Like ew, or something.
Yeah, it was very effective. That's why we had the conversation.
I think
about
the other
it,
thing we talked a lot about is the way people's eyes blacked as far as their pupils.
Yeah,
and we were discussing how like that's like a predatory response for like when predators. Yeah, when predators are like excited. But the other thing that like it came to my mind after we did the episode is like when people are doing drugs and like they're doing cocaine, their pupils will dilate like that as well. And like that's part of it is like people are experiencing both happiness and pain and anger and everything all at the same time. So it's like they're riding the best high while also being a predator. So like of course their eyes are open black like that.
Yeah, that's kind of like that really is more of what I was thinking. Like just kind of like when you take like ecstasy or something, or Molly as the kids call it these days. The girl in the subway with like her blouse is torn and she's wearing she's got like a skirt and stuff like and she's kind of just like experiencing this like moment of just like the best she's ever felt in her entire life. That's kind of that, and then also at the very end when Jim says like it feels amazing, that's something that I wanted to kind of get across with the virus, the symptoms of the virus, is that it really feels great to be like this. It feels like just such a release. It's like pure joy to be like this, but at the expense of like everyone else, which I think is kind of like a, kind of a scary, cool, kind of like almost like a goth kind of idea or something.
It's very like strangely nihilistic too. Like, I mean, in us living in Western Pennsylvania, we're in like, zombie, we're in zombie country. We're in Romero country, like Night of the Living Dead was shot 20 minutes from my house, so like there's lots of like disproportionate amount of probably like respect and gravity and things for like the zombie film genre. And the one thing that's always like the most impressive thing about like the twist on the the infection compared to all the traditional incarnations of it is you always have this feeling of either empathy or apathy towards the infected, because either they're dead and who fucking cares? Yeah. Or they are these unfortunate souls who are, in agony, thinking about the, Return of the Living Dead, where she's, half a torso laying on the board talking about how painful it is to be dead and all this stuff. In this instance, they're like gleeful, having a fucking blast. You know what I mean? It just like completely flips the way you think about the level of empathy you're feeling for the affected and the people who are being inflicted upon by the infected.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because actually, like, one of the things that I've tried to state, like, to be very upfront about was how much of an influence Garth Ennis's comic book Crossed was. Are you guys familiar with that?
I haven't read it, but we're aware.
I haven't read it either. I'm familiar with it, but haven't read it.
So the thing is like, in terms of like the characters, and in terms of like, sort of what the story is about, and in terms of the like the themes of the comic, the sadness is not really the same, because that sort of idea of it feeling good to be like, that sort of idea of like, this is the best day of your life kind of aspect of it. And also sort of the transformative quality of like being someone who's like unhappy with their life, being unhappy with their, the systems failed them, let's say, and we can see this with the businessman, or we can see this even with Molly to some degree, and all of a sudden, like, they're able to have to find their purpose in life, like having this virus, having this like horrible kind of murder virus become, like for it to kind of come on you, and then all of a sudden you realize who you are, and you realize like sort of, all of a sudden like everything makes sense, and everything seems great, and all of a sudden, because purpose is such an important thing to have in life, right? To know kind of what you're doing, what you're for, etc. So those kinds of things are really kind of what are the interesting things thematically in the sadness, and then also, but then the thing is like I had read Crossed when it first came out, like in probably the late 2010s, I think, and basically it's just like the premise in a very, very like quick way. You can just say like, one day all of a sudden something happens that, because it's not necessarily like a virus in Crossed, right? It's never really explained what it is. It is sort of alluded to be something biological, because it creates like a cross on your face, like a physical one. Yeah. Like blistering,
like a rash.
Or a rash, exactly. So so like the thing is that that's like that makes them identifiable as infected. But basically it's like one day something happens where something makes people want to do the worst thing that they can think of. Like that's the log line, right? So it's kind of like it's something that like I feel is it's such a just a general thing that it's kind of like, you don't get to just have that idea and yourself. It's kind of like okay, so there's one day the dead rise from the grave and started eating the living. It's like there's lots of movies like that. You can't.
Yeah, George Romero didn't invent the idea of ghouls. You know what I mean?
But I mean, even to be honest, like I really do believe that he did invent the idea of the modern ghoul. He did to a certain extent. Yeah. But I mean, a better way to say it would be like the Walking Dead didn't invent zombies, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And no one would really accuse the Walking Dead of being like a bald-faced ripoff of the Dead series. It's just like we've established sort of just this mythology, and it's kind of just we can kind of work within it, like at this point, because it's like like to be honest too, like I mean, there's a James Herbert novel called The Fog that I had read years before, where there's a scene actually in that novel where like a bunch of students they assault their gym teacher at school, like because the idea is the same thing. It's a gas. It's like the gas makes you just want to do like the worst thing you can think of. And then these students they get affected by the gas, but the gym teacher doesn't. And then they end up just like beating the hell out of him, and they try to put like a baseball bat in his ass and stuff, and like all this stuff like at the school. And I mean that scene is sort of like a standout scene of that novel, and I was like, oh man, I gotta, like, having students turn on like an adult like that is so cool.
Yeah,
it's so nasty, so we got to put that in the sadness, right? So like, I mean, that's that but then at the same time, I really do believe that something like the James Herbert's The Fog, not John Carpenter's The Fog, was an influence for
I would say I don't remember that happening to Tom Atkins, but
yeah, no, it was Jamie Lee Curtis. She caught him slipping, and she slipped. But anyways, like, so the thing is that that novel probably that's from like the 80s or no, maybe it's even the late 70s. So I mean these are the kind of things that probably like get the ether stirring, and then it allows sort of like Garth Ennis to start writing Crossed. He's never said that, obviously, but like, I mean, the point is that there's just stuff out there where there's just like, mass insanity. I mean, we have we have the crazies and stuff like that. But the one thing that I will concede though is that like, what Garth Ennis really understood with Crossed is that, and you've said it too, Brian, is that what makes it scary. What kind of is that sort of horror revelation that you have is just how adding malice to zombie structure is that's special. Like that's the special thing, you know? And I mean, and I recognize that right from the beginning. And I also recognize that as something that didn't necessarily have to be reliant on a big budget. Like Malice is free, you know? So when I was given the task to do a zombie movie, like, cause that was the contract, right? It was like, you have to write a zombie movie. You have to do it in like less than 8 months and you're going to get this much money to do it. Right. Which was not a lot. You guys mentioned production value and stuff. I'll attribute that a lot of that to the fact that we were using ARRI prime lenses, and just the look of the sadness looks a lot better than just like a lot of these movies you'll see like whatever, like on just some bullshit Netflix movie that comes out or something. Like it just looks like a throwaway movie. Like you turn it on and you're just like, oh, I know what this is already, and turn it off. But
sure.
So
yeah, it looks slick. You know what I mean? That's the layman's term how I would describe compared to, like you said, the average movie I'm pulling up on Tubi or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I would like to think that it's like a far cry ahead of like Jurassic Shark or something, you know?
Well, I mean, Santa Jaws is a modern masterpiece, and I will not have anyone say otherwise. I really liked Amityville Dollhouse. I thought that that actually was kind of good. Like I was like, because it's like they have that stupid whatever. We won't talk about that right now. Well, one other thing I'll say, and I'm not familiar with Crossed. I mean, I've seen maybe some imageries now that you guys say the face thing. Like I have definitely seen that imagery before. But the thing I immediately went to when I started, and even when I was taking notes, I don't know if I said it on the episode or not, but when I was taking notes after watching The Sadness, having gone in, you know, as blind as I could have, it was, I remember typing down, and again, I was probably like moderately to highly stoned. So I was sitting there taking notes, and I thought to myself, like, this is zombies, right? This is modern, you know, kind of 28 Days Later style, like rage zombies or whatever, combined with this old, you know, concept that I've always found really interesting as a angsty emo teenager reading Edgar Allan Poe. There's this concept of the imp of the perverse, which is this concept that it was a concept that's very, very old, but that Poe kind of coined this phrase to describe it, which is this idea of no matter how earnest a person is or how friendly or how nonviolent a person is, you get that weird feeling in the back of your mind. And I think he uses the example of like standing on a cliff with a friend, and for some reason in the back of your brain, you're thinking, I might shove this person off this cliff.
Exactly.
And you're like, I would never do that in a million years. This is my friend. Why would I do that? But there is this thing in the back of your brain as a human that's saying, but I could if I wanted to. You know?
Or just like, you know, like what? Because that's exactly what the whole thing is all about. You know, it's about like, it's about like, if we think about that sort of in terms of modern physiology, you know, like if we can call it, like maybe isolate that to like a collection of neurons or something, and then like what a virus does is it just kind of like builds a little
there's a little bridge,
and then or disconnects or something, you know. But the point is that the ultimate effect is like you know, you're walking by like a toddler holding the hand of its mother, and you're just like, you know, like, you know, I really know that I shouldn't kick that toddler, you know, and then you end up, but then you know, if you have the virus, like that's just, you're compelled to do it beyond your control, you know, and then you're rewarded by like a huge hormone, like endorphin rush.
Right? Yeah. There's like dopamine flooding your brain when you do something awful.
What a wild virus that is, you know. Another Another thing another influence that I had, and I wish that I had thought a little bit more about, because like, you know, I made The Sadness, and then like as I thought more about it, I thought of ways that I could have like added, you know, made the virus aspect of it and sort of what the virus means kind of more interesting. But like the there's a book called a short story actually called The SCREWFLY Solution by Raccoona Sheldon, or I think it's like Alice Sheldon. Raccoona is like a pen name, but anyways, like it's this. They actually did a Masters of Horror episode of it in the second season. It's like I think maybe Joe Dante directed it, but it's like the idea of this story is that there's a kind of biological agent released into the world that only affects men, and what it does, or it affects everyone, but men only have like the
genetic precursor, right, or something.
It affects like the Y chromosome or whatever. Like it only affects men. Yeah. So what it does is it reroutes the brain so that the how do you say that? Like sexual arousal is connected directly to like top tier aggression. So now whenever you're with your wife and you're watching TV, and all of a sudden, like, you start kind of like fooling around a little bit. And then as soon as you start getting like sexually aroused, like you're compelled beyond any kind of control to just like to murder her, right? To rip her apart with your bare hands. Like that's what horny means now.
That's
and then,
wild.
and then what happened? And then,
that's a shirt, by the way, TM. That's a shirt. That's what horny means now.
So that's what horny means now. And then what happens is, and this is the interesting part, is that because this is the way that all men are now, or at least a lot of men are, and every other aspect of life is fine. They're still thinking, they're still driving cars, they're still going to their jobs and stuff. As long as you're not horny, you're okay, But then what happens is, because this is the way I feel about women now. Like now, like whenever I see like a salacious like bikini ad or something, I just feel like horrible murderous anger. All of a sudden it starts this movement, like a social movement, where it's like almost like a how do you say that? Like a fundamentalist kind of religion and they call themselves the Sons of Adam, where they want to just destroy all women and they figured it out, and they relate it to like the biblical texts. Like Eve is the one who kicked Adam out of the Garden of Eden, so it's actually all women's fault. And in fact, like if we can get back to like a society with only men, then we'll be all better off. But the amazing thing is that it all comes from just this stupid brain thing, like this. And in the end, we find out that it's actually that spoiler for everybody that's going to read that book. It's actually aliens that use it to they do it not to kill women. They do it to kill all the species, because if you remove one sex, then you remove them all eventually, right? And then it's all a bunch of dead humans, and then they can come in and take over the earth. So that sort of aspect of like it. A biological kind of small biological kind of thing turning into sort of this social thing, like a socio-religious political thing. I thought that was just such a brilliant idea, That's a book I cannot recommend enough. It's written like a Dracula, like it's all journal, like it's like found fiction, found footage.
Okay.
Like journal.
Interesting. Okay.
And you can sort of see people changing, and it's really, really great. Like it's short too. It's only like 120 pages long or something. So I mean, I got the SCREWFLY Solution. That's if I would recommend anything to read, that's the one. Especially if
already. I'm ready for it.
Cool. Talk about it next time.
Yeah. No, that was it almost reminds me of a movie that I remember when I saw, really enjoying and feeling like it was something that I like. Now this was years ago, but really like felt like I could sink my teeth into, and that I was eager to talk to other horror fans about. And then apparently everyone else on the earth hated it but me, which was The Happening. M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, when that came out. And I get now why people don't like it. The performances are weird and Mark Wahlberg is difficult in that movie and all that stuff. But I remember walking out of the theater going, wow, there's a lot like to unpack there. I don't know that it was necessarily executed the greatest way possible, but it was one of those things where, anytime it's something that demonstrates the like biological and chemical vulnerability of our species is always real scary to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, I actually like that movie too. I find that movie to be very watchable. Like easy to just put that on and just kind of be like, you know, this is, it goes down pretty easy. Goes down like a 7-Eleven sandwich, just like super easy. And then, but you're right. Like just that, and you actually stated it very well. Like the vulnerability, like the, like total, just open vulnerability to something like that, you know, especially like not so much like, okay, we're vulnerable to like a virus, like we are with COVID or whatever, but more like we're open to our, like, we think that our personalities and our the way that we think and the kind of our intelligence and all that kind of stuff is pretty rock solid, but like all it takes is like just like one little tweak and all of a sudden you're a completely different person. And if you've ever you know, had experience with dealing with someone with like dementia or something like that, you can see that very clearly. And it also brings like, it also kind of raises really interesting questions about the afterlife. Cause it's kind of like, you know, if you get like brain damaged and you turn into a different person, is your ghost like that? Or is your ghost like how it was before, you know, like how many physical kind of like things that have happened to you in your life changed your personality, and those all go away if you become a ghost or if you go to heaven or whatever, you know? It's like,
especially bringing the religious aspect of it, which I'm not at all religious person, but I'm just painfully interested by religion, and like Christian iconography and that sort of thing. And like, what is God's stance on if you get murdered by a tree? You know, like he made that tree. He gave that tree the wherewithal to murder me if it wanted to. You know, whose fault is that?
How's a tree going to murder you?
He's talking about the happening again.
I see.
If suicide is a mortal sin, and then the tree that God made makes you commit suicide, well, then whose fault is that?
You know what that sounds? If the happening was like a huge big success, that would be like the Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah. Or you know what? I died of food poisoning because I ordered a questionable item at this restaurant. You know, but the tree told me to do it. I would not have otherwise done it. Like I can see the sketch writing itself.
Yeah, it would be like Will Ferrell dressed up like with a beard and stuff. You know, like on their heaven set.
Be like, why you committed suicide? You ate the lobster at the diner, and it's like, no, that was the tree. It's $1 million idea, guys. TM, don't take it. Don't steal it.
Brian is trying to write The Happening 2.
The Happening 2, Electric Boogaloo. Here it comes.
So, what else is going on, guys?
Well, I mean, you know, I know this is a bit of a cliche question, but one I'm always interested in is, you know, what's on the horizon for you? Is there something else you're working on? Are you laying low? You know, is that something? Maybe it's something you can't talk about.
No, I can talk about whatever. It's just that, like I mean, the sadness was made kind of like. Essentially with like just sort of the financing of like an angel investor, you know, all equity. Maybe I shouldn't go too deep into that, but at the same time, I mean, whatever, like, you know, anyone can do the research and find out that sort of stuff. But it's a fairly successful film in terms of like Shudder or whatever. Like I think we had the biggest non-English premiere on Shudder ever in the history of Shudder, right? So like, and
that's awesome.
Definitely like in terms of like a Taiwanese film, I don't think that anyone's been talking about a Taiwanese film this much in a decade, you know? Like, I mean, Taiwan films don't tend to really have a lot of, you know, like international appeal, especially not the horror films. The horror films tend to be fairly like, pretty PG, and also they tend to be very like local. They tend to be very much about like local urban legends or local shit, you know. So it is cool to like the point that I'm trying to make is that there are things about the sadness that can be kind of, you know, like, you know, quantifiably and qualitatively kind of be considered like success. I have had like a lot of offers, and I have had a lot of phone calls and meetings and this and that and the other thing. And yes, I'm working on something right now. I have a script written. I'm in the process right now of kind of like signing preliminary sort of sales agreements. I'm finding out a lot about sort of this business now, like the way that this whole thing works, especially given like the fact that sort of the theater model and like the VHS model isn't really relevant anymore. So it's like you're dealing with a situation where you're trying to figure out how much you're going to make right from the beginning, and you're dealing with a lot of things like pre-sales and making kind of commitments to buyers early on so that they can get a deal on something that maybe down the road would be more, you know. But at the same time, you're trying to build a budget as well, and then there's this whole aspect as well that has to do with grants money, soft money, tax rebates, this kind of crap, and it's just like it's this whole super annoying thing. Like you just want to be making a movie and do a thing, and it doesn't work that way. It's like you have to do all this shit. You know, luckily I've gotten some people now to help me with that. People who do that for a living. That's like all they do. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, like the next, just to sort of get to what you actually want to hear, the new movie is going to be more like a creature kind of movie.
Ooh.
I think.
Nice.
Cause I really, that actually is my love, is like, I mentioned before, like, you know, I really like Stuart Gordon. I think that not only do I like his films, but I also like his sort of philosophy with filmmaking. Like, I think that, you know, just sort of his balance between sort of like, this is just a job and we're not doing brain surgery here, versus like, you know, there still needs to be art. There still needs to be some love here, you know. That balance that he seems to have with his films is kind of the one that I kind of connect with the most. So yeah, and he has got a lot of really great sort of like movies with like creatures. You know, like, I mean, From Beyond is kind of sort of a high watermark. Is that the right analogy?
Yeah.
High watermark. I mean, From Beyond is pretty much the only thing that we saw like that since like The Thing, really, you know. And the thing is obviously the thing's great, but it also does feel funny to be talking about. It does feel funny to be talking about those movies. Like they're like 40-year-old movies at this point, you know. Like when are we gonna like see some new stuff and be able to like sort of make comparisons to things that came out like, you know, like recently, like things that have that same power.
We just did Creatures of the Deep. We just discussed last week, and coincidentally, we did end up all picking relatively recent movies. You know, we kind of all assumed we would be going back to some of those classic, you know, creature feature types of things. But we ended up talking about like The Host, Piranha 3D, and then Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, okay. I thought Deep Rising would get in there.
Deep Rising was definitely on the list for a couple of us, and didn't get selected for whatever reason. But that was it is interesting because there are, I think, people. It's horror strange because I do think there is a lot of like a disproportionate amount of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Connected to genre films even more than other areas of film. And so and I think so, like, we're just getting to the point now where there are people who are gonna turn around and say, like, some of these movies with early-ish, not early, but what we would consider to be potentially subpar CGI effects, for example, now are like, that's totally acceptable. That's part of their horror lexicon. Whereas, like, people who are maybe, in, late 30s, early 40s, whatever, a little bit, or, older even, are like, no, it's practical effects or nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah, so the shift undoubtedly will happen.
It's really tough. Like, it's really tough to kind of know like what's going to hit for everyone, like, I was just thinking about that, like, recently, about like, me and I'm working with like sort of the creature thing is something that I'm working on. It's sort of on the front burner right now, but like on the back burner, I'm working with, let me tell you this is something I'm kind of excited about, but I won't say too much about it. Like, I read a book recently. I won't say what it was, but it was like a book that I really, really liked a lot. It was a horror book. But there was like this whole part towards the end that I didn't understand, and I tried to read reviews on it, and then I ended up like, not finding what I needed to find in the reviews. Like I still didn't understand what the hell this book was about at the end. And it was like the whole last half, like 150 pages. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, because it was like, okay, so it's annoying that I'm not telling you the book, but I can't because I don't want to reveal the writer. But anyways, the point is that like I ended up just writing. I found out that writer's email, and I wrote him. And I was like, "What the hell's going on in the last half of the book?" And he wrote me this long email, basically just like explaining kind of around it all, and then at the end, like kind of saying that there are a few things too that I don't really want to tell you because like it's designed so that you won't. To kind of confuse and frustrate you as well. And I was like, what the fuck is that? So then like, we kept in touch, and I eventually was like, hey, you want to like write a script for a movie with me one day? And he was just like, yeah, actually I've been thinking about that a lot. And I was like, here, I made this movie called this is months ago. So it was before The Sadness came out. I was like, here, I made this movie called The Sadness. You want to look at it? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'll watch it with my son. He's a little older. He's got a family. So I say, so he was like, holy shit, that was really crazy. That's a crazy movie, man. Like, I was like, yeah. So then we started talking about like I'm coming around to the point is like, we started talking about like kind of how we can make a horror movie that's, and kind of try to tap into sort of a fear that like will be sort of an emergent fear as like time kind of goes on. Because the best films are the ones that really put their finger on like a issue, or like, like, oh my God, like, I can't believe that they're talking about that. I didn't think anyone else was thinking about that too. Like I had that feeling when I was watching Midsummer, actually, because of, but I won't get into that. It mostly has to do with sort of how the boyfriend was behaving. I was just like, I've been that guy. I've been that coward too. Can't break up with his girlfriend. Like he can't break up with her because he just doesn't want to deal with the bullshit. Like, and just being a coward, like every man's been a coward like that. Like, it's so embarrassing. And to have a movie made about that, I felt like personally put on blast almost. Like, it was like it was really interesting to see kind of like a really specific like emotion or whatever put on the screen like that. Anyways, so we started talking about like, you ever notice that like, everything's all fucked up and like, and there are parents that can't talk with their kids anymore because of like information and stuff. It's like, like dad doesn't want to take the vaccine or some shit. And then like, and it's like, and his kids are trying to get him to do it, or like the point is that like, there just seems to be just like such a like complete total breakdown of just like communication, like, and nobody can talk to anybody anymore. And like, and facts, there's no longer is there just sort of like something reliable to reference. Like you can't just reference like, okay, well the FDA says this, or you can't reference like mainstream science says this. Like you just, there's no,
facts don't exist
or
anymore.
like, the government says that that's this, it's like there used to be a time when it may not have been true, but at least we could agree upon it. Like when there used to be 3 networks only in the States, at least you could point to that as a place to start a conversation. But now you can't. And it's like, and it actually is. And then sometimes you see like the government doing stuff like that seems intentionally wrong. And you're like, why would they be doing that? Is that actually by design to sort of, make you feel like you're going crazy? And then kind of like, just the ultimate goal is to sort of destroy like just the fundamental foundation of rationality. And then at that point, you can get anyone to do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like I'm not really like a conspiracy theorist. I live in Taiwan also. Like, where my political concerns are a lot different than what yours may be, because like I have different things on my mind than vaccine politics and shit. Like you're in Taiwan, everyone's just like, the vaccine's fine. It doesn't matter. And that's like something that it's just not an issue that people talk about too much in terms of just like Taiwanese people. But I'm just in it for like the sake of like the horror, like what can we do to make this? What can we do to like make a story that really is kind of terrifying in this way? And we saw like I saw like a movie called Pontypool.
Oh yeah.
That's a great
I
one.
did not like it at all. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I didn't get it. It didn't relate to me in the way that I like to be related to. Like, and it just ended up being kind of just sort of a zombie movie with just sort of like a twist. And I wanted it to be kind of more than that. Given that author is actually quite a good author and tends to sort of, like approach things in kind of a unique way, like a more cerebral way, like horror anyways. So yeah. So the point is that I'm really excited to try to like down the road, try to do something that's like, really ambitious in terms of horror. But like that's the kind of thing that really interests me, like down the road. And it's sort of when I see movies like Titan and stuff that are just not about the normal subject matter and not even fitting into genre categories, that movie's just so genre agnostic. It was such a breath of fresh air. Like I remember I saw that in Calgary because I was there for the festival at the Calgary Festival, and I saw that movie there, and I was just like, man, this is fucking amazing. This is amazing. Like more people should make movies like this, where it's just all passion and like all like
it feels like a really well thought out stream of consciousness almost. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're going in the direction that the story's leading you without a lot of those same traditional like storytelling functionality.
It's not the same traditional beats of this happens and this happens and this happens. It's what?
The thing is though about that film though is that it's like I think that it is definitely like to say that it's a stream of consciousness thing is like not. I don't think it's giving it enough credit because it definitely does have a structure and it's just surprising that something that is on paper about this and this, it in the end becomes this very, very like beautiful film that's just about like unconditional love.
Like just a relationship. But I get what you're saying. It's a very well written film, but like it's one of those ones where
it's another one that you can't really trust of where it's going to go. Yeah, because it goes from
it's not A to B to C. It's A to God knows where, and then eventually you get to C. But it just goes in directions that you did not anticipate. When you see the first 5 minutes of that film, you're like, the last thing I think of is this person is going to have this type of relationship with this type of person.
And then also like the crazy risky tightrope walk of that film too is how they're essentially looking at a female to male transition through the lens of body horror. Like it's so risky. It's such a Twitter nightmare, But she threaded the needle on that one, it made it work, and everyone's just like, bravo, just like, damn, what an accomplishment. Anyways, sorry guys.
I'll ask you one more thing, and again, a selfish one. I don't know a lot of pure Taiwanese horror movies. I know of some of those kind of more like exploitation type, films that we talked about early on. But like, if there are, maybe one or two Taiwanese horror movies that are, especially ones that are representative of like what Taiwanese horror is in a somewhat modern sense, like what would you suggest to someone to go out and find?
Oh God, you're putting me in a tough position right now because like I personally don't think that there's been like a very good Taiwanese horror film, made, and that's just okay. And the thing is that that's actually just not really where Taiwan shines in terms of film. If you want to watch a really good Taiwanese film, watch a brighter summer day by Edward Yang, YANG. That movie is It's like, it's like the Taiwanese Godfather, essentially. It's about kind of like, growing up under, like martial law, very, very like strict, and like oppressive government, and then kind of kids kind of trying to find out who they are, and kind of also like kind of getting American, like Elvis Presley, like the American influence, Western influence coming in, and like, and just kids trying to figure out who they are, and then also this sort of like organized crime aspect to it, and like, it's really great. It's really, really like you'll get a lot out of it. I think that's probably one of the best films that has come out of Taiwan. That's like from the 1992. I want to say the 90s.
Okay.
As far as like, like, I don't know, Taiwan's always been more of like a, art, like, they're going for in terms of international appeal, they're going for like the Cannes Film Festival type films and stuff. Like,
sure.
They're not really only recently have there been like horror movies coming out, and I can't really recommend any of them because they're just objectively not as good as like ones that you would see coming out of other parts of Asia, say Korea, for example, or well, the kind that used to come out of Japan. I saw a very, very good Hong Kong movie, sort of like a crime drama, and it's called Limbo. See if you can find that.
No,
I will.
That movie is blew me away. Just like such a well made, well crafted film. And then also, what else is it about that movie? It's also very mean, very like mean spirited. I think that. But like I said, it's a Hong Kong movie, not a Taiwanese movie.
Gotcha.
Limbo, definitely, absolutely, you got to watch that. And then Brighter Summer Day for just a good Taiwanese film. And that's about all I can think of.
No, those are great. Those are two that I have no frame of reference on. So yeah, I'm always looking for something that, like I said, I can just kind of go in blind and just kind of discover as it goes. So.
Yeah. I mentioned Limbo specifically just because like I only saw it like a couple days ago, and I feel like I just haven't seen a really good movie in a long time. I was just, oh God, thank you. Like, I was just so happy to just, someone still cares. Someone still is trying to make something good, and someone's like putting the effort and the passion forward to make like a good sort of, what do you call that? Like a higher tier kind of like action crime sort of horror, kind of like, like that Seven vibe where it's like almost like horror, just because of how horrible,
like a grittier thriller kind of,
just because about how horrible the killer does and like how implicit sort of like the crime scenes are, like you're just like, oh God, but it's like just the way that it's like shot, it's a black and white film too, which is pretty wild.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, okay, that's about all I can think of for that kind of stuff. I wish that I could give more recommendations, but it's getting tougher and tougher as time goes on. Do you guys have anything to recommend to me that you've seen recently that's really good?
Season 3 of Barry.
Wait, what?
So what? Bill Hader show?
Yeah, it's really good. Like especially like season 3 gets incredibly dark, and like,
is it funny?
Yeah, it's like a dark comedy. Okay. So like the first season is pretty high, like pretty surface level comedy, but like as it goes on, it gets just darker and deeper because the character keeps digging himself into these terrible holes. So.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
Nothing has been getting me too excited. I mean, I watched Duel and I thought that was an interesting concept, and I think I was more excited to find out Emma Ruth Rundle did the like score for it. And then I like wanted, I don't know if you saw Men yet, but I'm like waiting to talk to someone about it because
if you're up for it, I'd love to talk with you about Men because I got a few things to say about that film. But like,
sure, these guys haven't watched it yet, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm here.
No, go ahead though.
Okay. How about you, Brian? You got any recommendations?
I was trying to think. I've definitely been on a kick recently of just watching absolute horseshit, like really weird. We talked about not that long ago. I absolutely was blown away by a Japanese film called The Boxer's Omen that I just genuinely loved every second of, and it's just completely out there, really wacky, corny practical effects. It's free on YouTube. We ended up doing an episode on it, I think, just because I think I got to pick that episode.
That one's actually a
reason.
Hong Kong movie. The Japanese one.
That is. Oh, you're right. That is a Hong Kong movie.
The Japanese movie you watched was 976 Pinocchio.
Yeah. I was on a bit of a cyberpunk kick there for a while too, but that was 964 Pinocchio, and then this was the Hong Kong one. The Boxer's Omen was really, really fun, but another one that just came. I just watched it for the second time, and I don't know if we did an episode of it. It was a Spanish language film, but I can't remember. Steve might remember where it was. I was trying to look it up real quick, but The Last Matinee.
Oh, yeah.
You remember we talked about that? Where was that from?
That was it wasn't Spain?
It was South American.
South America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say it was somewhere in South America. I kept wanting to say it was
I think it was a joint production.
Oh, it was Uruguay. Yeah, it was a joint production. It was like Uruguay and Argentina. Yeah. But it is this weird, like, South American, like, love letter to American slashers of the 80s, as well as, like, giallo flicks. And it was just really, really fun and well done. And yeah, I went back and rewatched it this past week and liked it even more than the first time I watched it.
Wow. Well, that's great. It's called, Did you say it was called The Last Matinee?
The Last Matinee, yeah. And it just came out. I was trying to Google it real quick. It just came out in the last couple of years.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm trying to like think about stuff that like, stuff that I've seen that I like. Like I'm really trying to rack my brain as you're speaking,
mm-hmm.
and like the stuff that I'm trying. That's the only thing I can think of is like. Do you ever watch 30 Coins?
That shit is so good.
Yeah, I thought that was.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, you should watch that, and also try to look at Alex de la Iglesia movies. I think that he's sort of a not like he's not regarded in the light that he should be. Like I think he's a really underrated director. But 30 Coins is just it's like this. It's 30 coins is in reference to like the 30 coins that were paid to Judas to rat on Jesus, right? And coins have like magical power, but like they have like magical like evil power because they're representations of like pure representations of betrayal. So like this cult like wants to like get them all together so they can have like ultimate evil power. But then like this ex-priest and a veterinarian get together and they start Scooby-Dooing around the globe, solving all kinds of like supernatural capers and stuff. And it's just such a wacky show, and it's funny and it's scary and it's goofy and it's got monsters in it. And it's like just such a fun show. But the problem is though, is that you can't be fucking around on your phone while you watch it because Spanish people talk so fast and it's it's subtitled. So you have to be like super quick at like getting, cause I'm pretty fast at reading and I'm finding myself like sweating when I watch this show because it talks so fast.
Sure.
And then also just to, this is not even a new movie. This is like a movie that's like 8 years old, but I just should mention it because I really like it a lot. It's called The World of Kanako. And it's by Tetsuya Nakashima, is like a Japanese director. And it's just this like, this story about this manipulative high school girl and her detective father who's trying to find her because she disappears. And it's like, I remember just watching that completely blind one day and just being like, oh my God, like just having that feeling that you get when you watch something really good and you feel almost like just thankful that there's still good stuff, that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, regarding Men, I don't know that I can say that I like that movie as a whole. Because I didn't find it to kind of like resolve in a way that was like satisfying.
I'll jump in because I had a similar feeling of like I felt like they used a lot of religious symbolism throughout the whole thing, but like there was no commentary on it, or they weren't, I don't feel like they were fully saying, they were like, here is just another way we can tell you how religion hates women in general, and just through a different lens of a story, you know?
The way, what I'm sort of thinking that you're talking about is how they were sort of showing that like pre-Christian sort of stuff, like that druidic, there's this one part, if I'm not mistaken, where they show some sort of like sculpture, and it looks
Green Man.
Yeah, exactly. Like some old ass druidic pre-Christian stuff. Right. And my sort of take of that was sort of like, oh, okay, there's this is explaining what's going on in a supernatural context. Like there's some sort of like energy. Like this movie isn't just purely subjective, and it's not just like Mother, where it's just like abstract and just sort of existing with its own world. This is serving not just to show how historically men have hated women or been abusive to women historically, but it's actually trying to give some context, like as to why this is happening, and also later when you see the finale, like why what happens, because there actually is sort of a supernatural element to this. Like this is like a land charged with energy, with occult energy or something like this, you know? That's the way I took it.
I think that's an interesting take on it too, because I think if you look at it that way, it doesn't feel so necessarily just like on the nose for everything that they were trying to say. Cause like every single thing could have like has its own story, and it could be related to then this rebirth of like that character, and just like kind of, I don't know, each thing is just like, even starting from when she showed up at the house and, you know, she eats the apple, and we're just getting these things that are just like so in your face. You're like, okay, I know that story. So I was taking it maybe more literally in a lot of ways, of like looking at each of the stories that they were referencing throughout it. And I was like, okay, but like, I feel like I would have felt more impassioned about it if they maybe turned around and had like an actual social commentary about what they wanted.
Well, this is like, this is the ultimate movie to talk. This is sort of like, you know, A24 kind of horror, and sort of what I like to think of as like sort of subjectivity in mainstream film, like mainstream, about as mainstream as A24 ever gets. Like something like Titan, right? Where it's like, it's coming from a completely subjective viewpoint, where it's like, what I mean by that is like, this doesn't really take place in reality. This takes place in sort of like on its own terms, you know, because like, for example, like let's say a movie, like a vampire movie or something, like that actually is, it does take place in reality, but it just has this supernatural element in it. And the people in that world regard it as being unusual. They're like, what? Vampires don't exist. So it's not real. Like it, whereas like in Men, for example, all of the men that are in the film are all played by that same actor, right?
Right. They're supposed to be the same person in general.
Right. But they're not, but it's not acknowledged by the woman, right? It's not for her, it's for us. It's because this movie is a like right on its sleeve. This is a metaphor. This is not taken
it's almost in like a little microcosm, or like in its own little vacuum.
But at the same time, I'm curious if you wouldn't think that would be for her, because she like everything that happened to that character, especially when things just started like going off the rails towards the end, was somehow like symbolic of even her husband's death. Like the way, you know, like the way the arm was like cut, you know, like, and just the way, and like the leg being broke, like even just trying to read a little bit more into it. And then he obviously, spoilers, if you haven't watched Men, I'm gonna spoil this, like James kind of coming to life at the end, you know, as that final form of this thing that's evolving.
We're kind of like, I think that we're just kind of like the when I say like, you know, oh, this is for her, or this is subjective, like I think like I think we're having a miscommunication about like what I mean by that, because like indeed in a way you could say that it is for her, because it's her subjective experience. But what I mean is like so like with let's say so like if there was just a line in the movie where like, you know, she walks into the room and there's two guys that look sort of the same as each other because they're played by the same actor, and she's like, are you guys cousins? Or like, I mean, if there was like, if there was a line like that, then we would know that this is not this is reality. This is like more or less our world. But if it was like, but because of it being within, just like what Brian said, its own sort of microcosm, all of a sudden, you know, you can't really judge it. You have to judge it on its own terms. You can't judge the film like sort of, you know, because it's creating its own world. So you can't, like, it's hard to kind of be, it's hard to judge it on anything other than just sort of like, you know, I mean, in my mind, like the sort of how it makes you feel kind of overall. And also just in terms of like performances and things like that. I don't know, like towards the end when there's that big special effects thing, spoiler, I was just happy to see a big special effects thing, you know, like, I mean, that was great. But in terms of just sort of like, you know, what is this movie? Okay, is this movie about kind of like this woman dealing with kind of like the trauma of, you know, of this experience of her husband committing, committing suicide. But then, you know, so, and then it's sort of just her kind of like working through it and also sort of feeling kind of, so is it all just a dream? Is it all in her head? Is this just something that's happening like within her mind? Like, is that what this all is? Because if it is, then go further with that, you know, like make it wilder, like make it crazier. Like, I mean,
I think you're giving me also like a new perspective, which is also why I love doing this podcast with these guys, because I think I get to think about things a little differently. I'd be curious even to explore more, because I have a feeling though, because right after I watched it, I was like, I don't know exactly how I feel, but I also don't really have any sort of religious background, so I need to look up what do these things mean, and like, is there any sort of relation to like, and that it might even looking at it through this world of like they're creating this world around also these ideas though, you know, so what I mean? So I'd be curious to revisit it again, but.
Yeah, I haven't seen this movie, but first this conversation has given me a lot of, when we talked about the killing of a sacred deer, it's giving me a lot of those vibes where it's like these really weird, like the weird performances, you know, these weird sterile performances that you're like, oh, this is part of that world. And it's not weird to anyone in the movie. Right. So it starts to make you question the rationale behind that very explicit directing decision. You know what I mean? Because it's not just one performance. It's not just whatever the heck his name is. Colin Farrell. It's not just Colin Farrell making an acting decision. They're being directed to act like this. And it's supposed to paint a picture of this kind of like abnormal world that they're in. And the world is built around, in this instance, a religious metaphor.
Yeah, it's funny to like that's the thing about that film. I think that Killing of a Sacred Deer is like a, you know, just a superior film overall. Like I'd rather watch that than Men, for example. Not to say that they're similar in any other way than just because of this sort of subjective kind of in its own world aspect, like we were talking about. But like, you know, I'm not entirely like, you know, the kind of the way that the dialogue is delivered and like kind of the way that the people behave, and that just what you're talking about, that sort of peculiar way that people are relating to one another and talking in that film. It's like it's working towards an end, but I'm not really able to put my finger on what exactly it's doing or how it's working. But the overall effect of it just kind of disorienting me and setting me up for kind of sort of gut punches towards the end is really like it's effective. So like, I mean, that just speaks to the ability of the director of being able to kind of like, you know, being able to kind of do something that as it's happening to me, I don't even really understand how it's working or operating, but still I'm able to reap the benefit of it. In other words, be like, you know, emotionally moved by like the film. even though I'm not really even sure how the mechanics of it work. Like,
yeah, I was like that. That's what I found myself in that movie, almost getting, I don't say hung up on it, but maybe distracted is the best word, where I was like, why are they acting in this way? Is it because this whole thing and all the happenings and the intertwined relationships between the married couple and the kids and then this troubled, teen, is this the way that he is imagining it? Because he's obviously has, struggling with some sort of, mental illness or something like that. So is it like, is this kind of sterile way of dealing with one another something that is inflicted upon the world by him? You know what I mean? I don't know.
There's also like a Greek, like it's based on some sort of old Greek story too, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's not biblical. It's Greek. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, the thing is about that is like, that all of a sudden, it's that kind of storytelling is it frees itself up to be like, you don't have to go by pure objective reality anymore. Like there is sort of like there is sort of a license to kind of be a little more like, I don't know, theatrical is the first word that comes to mind. I don't know if it's more
like esoteric almost in how everyone's reacting to one another. Yeah. Like it can mean a lot more, or it can mean something totally different because this isn't the real world.
Yeah, sure. Like
yeah.
I maybe at the end of the day, like, I like sort of trying to zero in on these kind of things. Is at the very least we can say kind of like a movie like Killing of a Sacred Deer is like it's like it reminds me of something, but I don't exactly know what it reminds me of. Like it's like a weird sort of feeling where you feel kind of there's a familiarity to the way things are, or at least I should know what it is, but it's impossible for me to know what it is. But
yeah, there's a little bit of a uncanny valley type of thing going on, maybe, or something.
Then like a movie like Mother, for example, it's like I know exactly what this is all coming from, and that works a lot less. It works a lot less effectively than something like that. Just because it's like, so I know exactly what they're referencing here, and it's just like, there's the ambiguity and the art again is not really present.
We did an episode on Mother where we actually had this guy.
It was
religious. It was religious horror, but it came down to like Mother, because Brian and I have such a Catholic upbringing. Mother was like super on the nose for us. So like you're saying, there was no ambiguity, where Meg didn't have that upbringing, so it was actually more foreign to her.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, just like it's almost like instead of doing a painting, somebody just gets the paintbrush and just writes down what the painting is about.
Yeah.
That is Darren Aronofsky you just described. Yeah.
I used to love his films. I used to love like I guess I haven't watched Requiem for a Dream since it first came out. Maybe I wouldn't be as impressed by it.
See, I wasn't when it first came out even. I was just like, okay, yeah, it's an anti-drug. I'm like, I'm not here for it. I'm bored.
Yeah. He did. What was the other one he did? Is he Black Swan too?
Yeah.
See, that one I like. That one I like.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, again, the analogies and stuff are a little on the nose, but he does the intense visual stuff.
I saw the meme where like it just shows all the stuff that he ripped off from Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I don't want to watch this. Like, I'd rather this just makes me want to watch Perfect Blue again. So I've actually never seen Black Swan.
I mean, yes, there's definitely a lot of parallels there, but it's, I mean, obviously one being like animated and stuff, it makes it visually, at least, which is all I come to expect kind of from Darren Aronofsky films, is like, there's going to be some fun, visually striking stuff.
Yeah. When you say his name quickly, it sounds like you're saying Derriere.
Darry Aronofsky. That's my Yinzer accent. Darry Aronofsky.
No, it's not like a criticism of you or your accent. It's more just like a thing. I like to think of him a little bit of as a Derriere.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sure he's a wonderful man. Much more accomplished than I am, anyhow. But anyway, yeah, let's put a pin in it, boys and girls, and I'll talk to you next time.
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for the time, and really excited to see what you do next. And obviously, you are more than welcome at any point. We'd love to chat with other fellow film nerds, especially one that's as knowledgeable as you. So appreciate your time.
That's awfully nice. If you, if you have any kind of like topic that comes up or something that you think that I would know about, then don't feel free to holler at me. And if I'm not interested, I'll just be like, no, guys, I can't do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Nice
maybe when we do our street trash episode or something.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that movie so much. Did you know that? How did you know that I love that movie?
I saw you an interview with you at, or maybe it was something at a festival or something. You talked about seeing street trash there.
Yeah, that was Fantasia again. That was when I was wearing a suit.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool, guys. I'll talk to you guys next time, right?
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks. Thanks, Rob. Yep.
So, let's just say thanks again to Rob for coming on. And then, go check out his film, The Sadness, obviously. You can find it on all the
Brian,
streaming.
I think, you guys are, so simpatico.
Yeah.
I felt that way the whole way. I was like, we should step away here. Give them something.
Well, I was just like the insufferable nerdiness that's happening right now is like just imagining people just like shutting off unsubscribe.
No, it was a good talk.
Yeah,
I think we got a lot of really great insight to the sadness, and it was really cool. I learned more about Rob too, which is awesome.
Yeah, super open and not like no ego. It was just it was cool. But well, once again, thank you to Rob Jabbaz for coming on and spending so much time with us and hearing our. I do genuinely hope he goes and watches The Boxer's Omen, and then probably then declines our next request to come on the show. But if you haven't already, not blowing smoke here at all. You got to go watch The Sadness on Shudder. And if you don't have Shudder already, come on. Listen, I understand there's a lot of streaming services out there and they're not paying us a dime, but holy fuck, there's a lot of good stuff on there. And The Sadness, I think that's the only place it's streaming right now. So you should definitely go check it out.
Or if you're French and you're listening to this, I think it's coming to the theaters July 6th. So if you're French.
Yeah.
Brian's
for all
French,
of our
apparently,
French
now.
listeners, this saison du pont made me a little French over here. So that was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll have Rob back in the future. But hey guys, probably a good time to mention if you have any contacts, any filmmaker friends, any directors that you're particularly interested in that you think might be willing to come and talk to us, we'd love to have them on the show. We've got a couple other guests coming up. They're going to be exciting as well that have agreed to come on here and let us flap our gums at them about chips and beers and spooky ooky shit and stuff like that. So and as always, give us one of them follows over on the social medias, because that's where you're going to be able to connect with us and also see what we got coming up here. Don't forget, live show June the 25th, Hot Farm Brewing Company. Come on down and see us. Be part of some crimes we're going to commit. Anything else? Tune in next week as we reveal our reimagining, whatever the right word is there, flicks for our showdown episode for next month. Anything else, guys?
No, I think I think I'm ready for bed. So
yeah, me
way
too.
Past
I'm
my
gonna
bedtime.
go smoke weed and pass out. Boys and girls, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm gonna go watch Columbo.
See you later. Bye.